Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, I wanted to talk about recruiters and HR. And specifically with regards to recruiters, I wanted to talk about recruiters outside of the Big Four accounting firms or whatever company you're working at. And I mainly wanted to tell people not to trust either recruiters or HR. And this is because neither of these groups are looking out for you. External recruiters are just worried about their clients, and their clients are whoever hired them to get a bunch of candidates. So when you're looking for a job and you go through a recruiter, which I've done a few times, they're always worried about the company that they're hired by. They're worried about getting them as many candidates as possible. And I've even run into recruiters now that are outsourced. They're from different countries than the countries that they're hiring in. And they just send you these spam messages without reading your resume or LinkedIn. And so you can tell they're just trying to get as many candidates as possible because they're probably working against other recruiters. And they're trying to get as many candidates as possible using keywords. And therefore, they don't care whether you get the job or not. They don't care whether you even come close to getting the job. And a lot of times, these companies, they just have to get a certain amount of candidates interviewed before they can hire the person who they really want, who might be a friend of somebody that works at the company or might be a family member of somebody that works at the company. So in general, I would not trust recruiters because recruiters are always going to sell you on the company that they're working for or working with. And they're going to try to tell you how great it is. But then if you interview with that company and you don't get the job, they don't follow up. They're not sitting there worrying about you all day. You're just in a stack of resumes or in another LinkedIn profile. So that's something too. I wanted to, and the main reason I'm saying this is because when you're looking for another job, don't depend on recruiters because recruiters, there's like statistics out there about using a recruiter versus using your own network. Using your own network, it's going to be easier to get a job. And that's why it's important to build your network while you're in the Big Four accounting firms, at clients, with people that you work with at the Big Four accounting firms, because when they leave, they'll have you in mind if they're ever in a hiring position. So that's recruiters. Now let's move on to HR. And I want to cover HR because I was thinking about recruiters and I was also thinking about HR. HR also is another group that doesn't care about you. They might seem like it. This is important for people in Big Four accounting firms because people that go to work for the Big Four accounting firms, it's typically the first big job they've had. And a lot of people complain about working at the Big Four accounting firms. They don't like working there, and then they go complain to HR. Well, HR is not there to help you out, human resources. They're there to look out for the risk for the company, and specifically they're looking out for the risk that is brought up by employees. If the employees are doing something wrong, if the partners want to fire people, then they need human resources help determining who to fire and how to fire them so that they don't get sued by the people that are leaving the firm. And don't get me wrong, there's good people in human resources. But at the end of the day, their job is not to look out for you, the employee, is to look out for the risk of the company or the partners in the accounting firm. So that's why I'm covering both of these in the same podcast, but because they're similar. These companies, these recruiters and human resources make it seem like they're your buddy. And oftentimes these people are very good with people skills. And so they're good at making it seem like they're your buddy. I mean, sometimes they're not, but most of the times they're good at seeming like they're your buddy, but they're actually not. They're not. They don't care about you. They're not getting paid to look out for you. And you can oftentimes tell over time that they're not looking out for you because they don't follow up. If you're not able to get them what they want right away, then they kind of write you off and they leave you alone. You might still need their help. You might need human resources help dealing with an issue with somebody else, but you're not their main client, so they don't really care about the issue. Or a recruiter might only have one company they're working for that you can fit in. And if that doesn't work with you, for you, then they don't follow up with you. So that's just something to keep in mind. You have to make sure you're in charge of your own career and you don't rely on these people. And specifically, it's going to be external recruiters and human resources. So that's the podcast for today. To get future updates, make sure to subscribe to this podcast. Support us financially through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes to this podcast. And if you can't do that, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video on our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening.